Namaste again, dear Vamadev. I am really glad to be with you to share your wisdom with my student. And I know you for many years, first of all, from your really great books. And from my opinion, you are a real spiritual leader, leader in medicine, Asian medicine. You have a few PhD in Chinese medicine and Ayurveda. Also, you are one of the best in Vedic astrology and many Vedic knowledges. And also, I was admired by your great wife, Yogini Shambhavi, her wisdom. Now, I'd like to ask you a few questions. My students sent me, to tell the truth, questions for you. And the first question is, what qualities are needed for modern spiritual leaders and ordinary people in this difficult time?
What spiritual qualities? Yes. Well, first of all, we need a lot of patience because of all the uncertainties. And along with that, we need an inward turning of the mind so that we're not just simply reacting to what is happening on the outside. We need to have an inner seeing, state of observation, so that we have an inner calm that can address all the outer changes, uncertainties, and even the kind of electrical stimulation that we are constantly subject to. And we need to have a degree of, I would say, faith or trust in the higher powers rather than simply looking at what is happening and the leadership we have around us. A spiritual leader, a true teacher, guru, guides us to our inner being. He or she helps us with our outer difficulties and complications in life, but they do not get us fixated or limited to what is happening externally. They teach us to have inner peace, and that's only through inner peace that we can address outer challenges. If we ourselves are in a state of disturbance, anxiety, worry, anger, then it becomes difficult to respond to the situation in a composed manner, and we respond to what is happening at a short-term basis than what is happening at a long-term basis. So that vision of duration, endurance, transcendence is what a leader must give, as well as a vision of the future, how to use the difficulties we have in order to grow, in order to reach a higher state, and use them to some extent, at least as opportunities. That is what we need to do to maintain this positive attitude that addresses the challenges very objectively, but at the same time knows there is an inner way to move beyond, and there are outer changes we can make to improve our position. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you very much. And the second question is, what do the stars show for the coming year? What do we need to consider? As far as I understand, people asking about next 10 or 12 months, because according to Vedic astrology, as far as I know, as far as I can see by myself, it starts not so, how to say in polite way, it's not so good, let me say so, for people and for West civilization generally. What do you think about it? What is your opinion about according to Vedic astrology for next 5, 6, or 12 months?
Well, first of all, let me put this into perspective. I don't know if you remember, but I think it was in 2009, I wrote an article saying that 2020 would be the beginning of what I called a new period or new age of troubles for humanity, time of difficulty. I reposted that in, I think, December of 2019, but I myself was quite shocked as to how much occurred in 2020. I had raised the issue of ecological challenges, health challenges, political challenges, educational challenges, but the degree to which they occurred was quite more. At the same time, we looked at the charts for the 2020 year. We look at these for April because it's new moon in Pisces. Sometimes it happens in March. It's called the Chaitra Shukla Pratipad chart. And we found it was a very difficult chart because we had a Kala Sarpa Yoga, Rahu and Ketu, right on the galactic center for Ketu and on the point opposite for Rahu, along with some other difficult positions like Saturn-Mars conjunctions. So the yearly chart was quite difficult. And of course, Rahu in Gemini is very much an epidemic type situation. And I had also noted that the Rahu was rising in Gemini in Central Europe, particularly places like Italy. So we expected that there would be more major outbreaks in those areas. And also other general issues, because this is a kind of time of karmic change and alignment for humanity. I also asked the question, the 20th century had, of course, major world wars, starting with World War I. And I asked the question, will the 21st century be able to survive without such difficulties? And some of us felt, okay, we've reached 2020 without a major war, but then 2020 occurred. So the situation is different. We're not saying there will be wars, but there's a lot of upheaval. And this upheaval is not only political and medical, it's also psychological and spiritual. And what's happened now is these lunar nodes, Rahu, Ketu, have shifted back so that Ketu has recently entered into Scorpio and Rahu has entered into Taurus, which are signs in which they are normally strong, and they are going to be pushing towards change or transformation. In other words, we as human beings have to make fundamental changes in our behavior, or we will face difficulties around us. And certainly the technology is affecting us, and also media information. We have to learn how to master these forces, and it is not easy to do. So much challenge has to occur. I haven't yet put out my analysis for the 2021. That will come out after March, April, when I looked into that, but we're still in a position of difficulty. I would say the virus will improve, or at least it will, its ability to truly harm people will go down. It may still continue to spread among certain populations, but there is a lingering psychic, spiritual, political unrest, such as we see in American elections, such as we see basically throughout the world, Middle East, Europe, even Far East, Asia. So these influences are kind of pushing humanity psychically, and that tends to trigger some of our deep-seated fears and angers, which may not even be appropriate, but we have to learn to deal with them. So a great deal of psychological insight and inner detachment is there. But later on, I will give a more detailed view. The problem is we have an entire world and many events. We also have events coming up. We have an eclipse of the sun near the winter solstice. We have Jupiter, Saturn coming back. So we're starting a new era of civilization in a kind of negative way, but we can develop it in a positive way if we bring in our deeper spiritual and cultural insights. So that's a kind of background. Hari Om.
Hari Om, thank you very much. And the third question is what spiritual practices are important for every person at any time, and especially in our time? Or what kind of spiritual practice do you recommend for people now? What should they do?
Yes. Well, spiritual practices are, of course, highly individualistic, and we use the term sadhana as a kind of daily, weekly, seasonal, yearly regimen that one follows, and aligning our lives accordingly. So I'm going to start out with some very simple and general remarks. One, you need to have a sadhana, meditation, a mantra, deeper study practice that you do before sleep and the first thing when you get up in the morning. What happens is during the day, we collect a lot of negative psychic electrical energies. So you must turn off the media an hour or two before you sleep and move into that meditative state where you detach yourself from what is going on in the world and even what is going on in your own body and mind. Don't worry, the world will still be there in the morning when you get up. You don't have to take it to sleep with you. It weighs quite a bit and disturbs your mind. So you need to affirm your inner being and consciousness, which we have greater access to, particularly in the state of deep sleep, but whenever the mind is calm. So before sleep, you must make your dedication, surrender to the deity form. You are connected to the guru and to your inner self or inner being. Your inner being is your eternal nature, which is not limited or controlled by time and space. And let go of the mind. Human mind is largely a pathology. It pushes us towards unhappiness and addiction, worry, anxiety. There are implications of gunas, rajas, and tamas, of doshas, vata, pitta, kapha. But we need to calm that mind out. And we can also do so by calming, centering, strengthening the prana, mantra, gazing at a flame, studying a certain text that we go into, many things that we can do. And then similarly, when you get up in the morning, it's very important to open up to nature, to the sky, to the cosmic influences. Again, let your mind, as the mind wakens, the mind tends to awaken in a kind of disturbed way. Learn to observe the mind and, first of all, have a positive intention or affirmation that you bring this energy of higher awareness into your daily activity. In other words, don't just run and jump into some outer activity, turn the computer on. First, you have to create that space within and that inner attention and detachment. Body needs to be exercised a bit, clean out. There needs to, herbal teas are very good. Some pranayama to get the prana circulating, because the energy gets stagnant as the body goes down. So if you can watch your lifestyle at both of these ends of the day, morning and evening, that will take you very far. And also during the week, you must have some time out, afternoon, morning, perhaps whole day, to undergo a deeper sadhana, renewal practice, going out into nature, whatever your basic orientation is, that time factor has to be there. And throughout the day, it's very important to step back periodically, to hold to a mantra, to observe, and to recognize that there are higher forces guiding us that we can access if we turn within. Hari Om.
Mario, thank you very much. It's I like just to add also, it's to have our mind goodness and sattva guna, it's very important. And also I recommend it to my students and for myself also, chant japa, chant holy name, more meditate and do as much as possible selfless service, or at least to have this mind attitude inside to be more selfless, because for egoistic person it's a little difficult to do maybe some spiritual way. And I remember how Shivananda Swami told that before meditation you have to do selfless service at least 6 months. It's really good cleaning karma yoga, let's say. So it's cleaning our mind. It's prepares for real spirituality and to be here and now, to live in divine love and do maybe puja to Ishtadev. Sorry, Vamadev, for my adding that. The fourth question is, why is it better for people to live in our time? Excuse me. As far as I understood, many people are worrying. It's maybe they have to move from some states in the US, or maybe from Canada, or to some place, or from Asia to somebody else. Because you told now in Italy, in Central Europe, it's according to Vedic astrology, it could be a lot of problems. And to tell the truth, we could see now that a lot of problems in Italy, in Slovenia now. I read that economics really in bad situation, a lot of problems. And but what do you recommend? Maybe some place to live, because even in Israel they say "Machlif makom, machlif mazal." It means that in Ivrit and ancient Hebrew language, it means that if you change your place of residence, you will change your happiness, your luck from the world, you know. And could you recommend maybe? Excuse me, sir, it's just our students sent me this question.
I understand. No, it is a time of uncertainty. It is a time of social disruption. It is a time when certain people are losing their jobs or having restrictions. Even, for example, yoga asana teachers can't do the classes that they used to do, that they relied upon for their main income. Even Ayurveda, a lot of the personal in-house clinical things, massage, etc., they like to do, has been restricted. Of course, it varies a little bit as per countries, what stage of lockdown and other things there may be. So we have to have a vision of our employment for the future that is more based on indirect communication, or that is considering these factors. We also have to consider, each country is different. America is undergoing an election that is going to be quite disruptive, and we're not certain what is going to happen after it is over. We're seeing more local disruption than we're seeing national disturbance. In America, of course, there were a lot of urban riots that we had through the summer. In other parts of the world, you have even a little war between Azerbaijan and Armenia. You have China on the threatening India and Tibet again.
Wow, really?
Oh yeah, that's been going on. I mean, that they pushed their troops there. And of course, China's been aggressive with a lot of the countries on its other borders. We won't go into that. And then Middle East has its unrest. On the other hand, we have some movement towards peace. You see Israel as now there's some peace with Israel and UAE and some of the other Islamic countries there. In Europe, there's still a fair amount of unrest, and there's still the worry, will the virus come back in a difficult way? What we see, the virus is coming back by way of positive testing, but not so much in terms of actual loss of lives. Of course, we want to be cautious, but my view is that it is weakening a bit, even though it's spreading a bit. And you also saw that Sweden tried a different approach. It didn't seem to be too much different overall what occurred, but obviously that uncertainty and potential lockdowns is going to be there. So we have to look to a future in which our communication is more in the distance and in which we have jobs that are more counseling, teaching, guidance-based, which can be done. And we should avoid panicking. We should avoid moving too quickly. I would say we should still wait a little while before before we run off. And of course, it depends on us as individuals if we have multiple dwellings. We live in a retreat place in the United States, which is fine. I wouldn't want to be in a certain major urban area or certain community right now. So it is important that you are in an area where you have retreat, where you have peace, where you have nature, and where you can avoid some of the, if possible, the excess disturbances of too many people. And of course, there are quite a variety of occupations people have. But in the long term, I think we will see a recovery, and there are certain fixed assets, properties. And I do think we will see more of a spiritual awakening, so that yoga, Vedanta, meditation, Ayurveda, these things will be more relevant in the future, but over this next few months, it's going to be a little difficult. But if we can, again, move more into a counseling model and move more into inner guidance, I think that we can develop something for the future overall. But each person has to look at his or her chart. There needs to be examination of what's going on in each country. There are charts for each country, and what we can examine later on after March or April. Caution is required, and the specific situations need to be examined. Economic fallout is still going on, but overall, I think the worst has passed, and we can begin to move forward. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Yeah, I also agree with you that people should at least preferable remove from huge cities. I could see it in, no, for example, in Toronto, Ontario. It's now at least half of offices is empty now. It's closed, and many employed receive the letters that the banks or some companies send them to work from home at least till September 2021. And one my client, she has PhD and she works on top manager in huge corporations. She told me that according to her information, they're not going to bring back these people in the offices. And also criminal situation is worse and worse, at least in Toronto area. And I have a lot of students, a lot of clients, and they told that criminal situation is much worse than even 1 year ago, and a lot of yeah, I agree with you. And the last question is, what can you say about modern states? Will Vedic culture survive in modern world? Excuse me, Maharaj, for this question. It's
the question is about.
yeah.
Could you repeat that?
Yeah, sorry. What can you say about modern states? Will Vedic culture survive in modern world?
Yes. Well, here, let me speak. And again, there's some general things we need to understand. One, there are very strong asuric traits within the human species. And by that, we mean identification with the body, seeking of power in the external world. That's always been there to some degree in human beings. You can see every century has had major wars and conflicts, and they're all unnecessary. I mean, Earth is a beautiful place. If we work together, there's plenty of resources, but we seem to be more concerned with envy, jealousy, and fighting with each other. Now, that being said, there is a certain civilizational and educational situation today. One, we are in a civilization dominated by information and machines. And that is also disturbing the nervous system and the mind, all the pranic energies, all the pollution, the disruption. And also, it's confusing us because information doesn't give us true knowledge. It gives us data, and then information can be spun and distorted to support one political party or another, or one point of view or another. And in terms of values, our educational system is not giving people higher values. I mean, there's a recognition you need to be a good person, you need to be peaceful overall. But now there's also a lot of agitation and assertion going on. People are not having a sense of higher values, that there's something beyond all the material things. You know, we're bombarded with seeing people who have all these material things, then everybody wants these things. And now we have even confusion as to who we are biologically, why we're alive. There's no steadiness in jobs. There's no steadiness in relationship. Our environment ecologically is disrupted. We're often not living in a natural environment. And remember, prana and sattva guna come from nature. You get prana from the trees, from the sky, from the clouds. You also get sattva from nature. When we're in a competing and conflicting human environment, then we're basically in a defensive mode. We become defensive, we become aggressive. I often tell people that the most powerful and dangerous emotion is envy, jealousy. We see a lot of that. And we see now a division of human beings by outer identities. Outwardly, we have many differences, whether it's male, female, young, old, rich, poor, ethnicity, interest, capacities, vocation. Differences are, of course, fine. But there is a need for a sense of inner unity. And what the Vedic culture teaches us is that we as human beings are an integral part of the entire universe. The entire universe dwells within us, and we should have a cosmic vision as cosmic beings. Today, we're so much trapped in our little social, human, political, economic stress world bubble, we might say, that we've lost our cosmic connection. We've lost our ability to transcend. And so we fight about local things rather than look to a higher vision. The fact is most of our thoughts are unnecessary. We do have to do things for our material gain and stability in life, but many people own things that they can never use, and outer things cannot bring you happiness. Sometimes I use this metaphor. Say there is a sick person, the doctor comes in and says, okay, I'm going to make you better. I'm going to make you happy. You have this horrible illness. I'm going to get you a very nice new coat. I'm going to get you a nice new car. And I'll allow you to take a beautiful vacation anywhere in the world. The poor patient, but you know, that's all on the outside. I'm sick here in my body. I need to address that. So that's what we tend to do. We have this malaise in the mind, and instead of turning within, we try to fill it with outer things. And so we don't achieve that happiness. So the Vedic view is we gain our fulfillment through discovering the ananda, or the peace, bliss, happiness within that is reflected in the whole of nature. And we work in society, as you say, karma yoga, for helping others, but in a practical way. We don't want to become servants of somebody who's selfish. We want to share for the benefit of all. So there are things that we can do out of that inner state, but those higher values need to be brought in. And then we need to create Vedic families, Vedic communities, and perhaps, you know, even a certain group of people together in retreats, certain parts of the world, that is something that is also there. And if we can't come together outwardly, physically, we have to create a Vedic Sangha or society or connection so that we feel ourselves to be part of that greater Vedic culture, Vedic universe. We also connect ourselves to rishis, to gurus inwardly, practices. And we give the outer world its place. We have to be practical. But at the same time, we don't need to let that determine who we are. We have to have that Vedic vision of the inner self, the rishi culture, and sustain it as best we can. Study the teachings, whether it's yoga, Vedanta, Ayurveda, Jyotish, whatever, where we are connected to. Live a dharmic life according to sattvic values. Be respectful to others, but at the same time, we do not have to take upon their burdens and their problems. And then we have to remember that whatever occurs, people with higher values are today a minority. It's not that we're going to suddenly become the majority, and we may not be accepted at certain levels of the society. So we have to have our own values, our own community, our own teachings, in which we share and try to help all, but also in which we preserve our teachings, traditions, lifestyle, not only with other people, with each other, with other Vedic communities, and with the world of nature, and with a vision that's not limited just in our current time, space, circumstance, but recognizes the eternal, infinite reality that is our greater being and our greater home that we can return to. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you very much, Vamadeva. You gave so many deep ideas, for example, about two kinds of intellects. I read it in your great books. According to my opinion, it's the best book about psychology, about spiritual life for last many, I don't know, maybe 500 years. It's Ayurveda and Mind. I bought this book in New Delhi airport and I read it. It's about maybe 15 years ago. I like it so much. According to my opinion, it's all universities should study this knowledge, how our mind work, how our intellect is work, two kinds of intellect, and inner or outer intellect. It's so great. Yeah, and yeah, I agree with you that we have to build some communities, maybe some satsangas, in order to keep this wisdom which came from ancient time. And I also noted that last 10, maybe 15 years, people become much more superficial. They could visit yoga just for, I don't know, for health, for sexualities, I don't know, maybe chant mantras in order don't get any disease, or have just I don't know, very short lectures just because to read that. It's, and people now read much less books, and also it's not good sign, I think. But
Yes, can I make a statement there?
yeah, sure.
You see, the most important thing we have in our life is our own power of attention. We call that also dharana shakti. If you cultivate that power of attention, you can meditate deeply and you can understand anything that you give your wholehearted attention to, whether it's a flower or the sky or another person. Today, people have lost that power of attention, if they had, because of all the stimulation media that is going on. And so there's no power of observation that way. And we become more physicalized, more concerned about our outer appearance than our inner being. And even yoga has become physicalized. In fact, we always have to tell people that we're talking about the deeper yoga, inner yoga. For example, Yoga Sutras, prime topic of Yoga Sutras is samadhi, which is the unitary state of consciousness. He defines yoga as samadhi. First section of Yoga Sutras is samadhi pada. Second section is sadhana pada, how you achieve samadhi. Third section is vibhuti pada, the powers that arise through samadhi. And fourth section is kaivalya pada, leading you to the ultimate samadhi of your true nature, purusha or atma. So cultivating that inner power of attention and seeing and being, not just simply being in the present moment, but having a presence in your own inner being is very important. So I define yoga as moment by moment awareness. That's the best yoga technique. The outer yoga is only an introduction to the inner yoga. And unless we cultivate that inner power of attention, observation, and deeper feeling, then we're still very much only at the beginning stage. The true yoga of samadhi has yet to come. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you very much, dear Vamadev, dear Professor Frawley. I really, I cannot say enjoy, spiritual enjoy, let's say so, to have this darshan with you. And maybe you could add at the end to people something. Maybe do you like to say something special for our students, for all
Yes.
people generally?
Well, I want to share you with something very simple, which is one simple bija mantra, which is the mantra Hreem, which you can spell H-R-E-E-M. This is the mantra of the spiritual heart. It is the mantra of inner self, Shakti. It is the mantra that allows us to center in our own inner being. So we hold that mantra. It also represents the sun at a deeper level. So we can use that mantra to center ourselves whenever we feel we're losing our awareness and falling out of our deeper sense of values. We can energize it with our deeper intentions and motivations. And finally, you must connect to and have full faith in your inner self and your inner being. Your inner self holds the entire universe. It is infinite and eternal. Outer world is a shadow. Sometimes it's a very difficult shadow. Sometimes it's like mud, very difficult to move through. Sometimes it's very beautiful and shows us all the colors of nature. but we must always have that sense of our inner strength, well-being, and peace. And if we have that, then the outer world will not overwhelm us. And we should also remember that even our human world is very small. You go out into nature a few miles from where you're living and you'll find another world. So let's remember the greater world of nature is benefic. Our inner being is cosmic. There can be difficulties in the human world, but let us not have them overcome us. We will overcome them. We can transcend them. But we do need caution, practicality as we do that. And though we affirm our inner transcendence, we also have to be aware of how the world operates and do so, be in this world in a way that is wise both outwardly and inwardly, but in which we maintain our inner connection and sharing with spiritual friends, gurus, teachers, communities, teachings, traditions, various types is very important. So it is my wish and hope that all of us are able to consolidate inwardly and move through this difficult time with grace, with the vision of the future, and to use difficulties to strengthen our inner ability. You know, a great mountain climber doesn't want to go downhill. A great mountain climber doesn't want to have an even slope. They want some difficulties to face. So sometimes too, the soul has to face difficulties in an incarnation in order to grow and meet its challenges. So take these challenges to bring out your own inner strength. It is there, you have it. And please bring that fully into your life. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you very much, Vamadev, and I hope to have again some retreats with you, some programs, maybe in Central Europe or in Russia or even in Turkey, in India. Okay, thank you very much again. If we could serve you in any way, please kindly let us know. Om Namo Narayana.
Om Namah Shivaya.